topics of discussion. And with that, we dry our eyes a little bit and we sit a little taller. I'm checking on the scrutineers and the judges, and we are ready to proceed with the last half of this, the first judged event of the Miss Pacific Islands 2018. And with that, we say, Hanua Boy Namona to Miss Papua New Guinea, who is joining us at the moment and will be addressing us this afternoon. It's almost afternoon, rather. This is the very lovely Leoshina Mercy Kariha, and she will be representing Papua New Guinea and addressing all of the judges in the interest of all of the sheets that you have in front of you.
Thank you, and good day, distinguished judges, ladies and gentlemen. As a young woman from the Pacific, it tears at my heart to hear statistics from around the world confirming the low numbers of women in prominent positions, the reported high levels of harassment and violence. Did you know women make up 2/3 of the world's 796 million illiterate people? According to global statistics, just 39% of rural girls attend secondary school. In addition, the women of the Pacific also have the barrier of very strong cultural traditions that at times limit us. As I begin my adult life, I've wondered about what actions I can possibly take. Sometimes the problems seem overwhelming. It's easy to be discouraged. But amidst all of this, I have hope. Unlocking what is within each one of us, empowering, helping women to see the possibilities and understand that they must have ownership of their destiny. This is what it means to empower a woman. But how can we empower a woman? Education. I believe empowerment through education is the key. When you educate a woman, you educate a family. When you educate a family, you educate a community. And when you educate a community, you educate a nation. The Miss Pacific Islands Pageant, Papua New Guinea, is one example of an organization that promotes holistic education of young women through its 3 pillars: scholarship fund, human development, and community service. Since 2011, the PNG pageant has fundraised for and given out about 600,000 Tongan Pa'anga in scholarships in the fields of education, health, and agriculture. A holistic education is important. Holistic development through the PNG pageants in the form of public speaking, etiquette, and health and well-being training promotes self-confidence. Self-confidence is needed for a woman to be truly empowered. To know her self-worth and to be confident that she can step out and achieve what goals she sets for herself. Community service, the final pillar of the Miss PNG pageant, focuses on sharing your empowerment. When you are empowered, it is your responsibility to empower others, to share the blessings. The PNG pageant, and by extension, the Pacific Islands pageants, promotes the possibility for change. It makes women visible, and it shows that we have much to offer. It gives us a platform to speak up for our Pacific sisters. But when we educate to empower, we must ensure to be patient. We must persevere and be courageous, and we must be strategic. We need to change perceptions about culture and social norms. Whilst being in your kingdom, I've had the honor and privilege of being hosted by His Majesty, King Tupou VI, King of Tonga. He stress the importance of educating both our young women and men, as we are partners in this journey. In conclusion, we must thank the many women from our Pacific as we honor and be the legacy of those that lit the path before us, our mothers, grandmothers, our great-grandmothers. I am blessed to be a voice for others and for this opportunity to be the change. As Malala Yousafzai said, I raise up my voice, not so I can shout, but so that those without a voice can be heard. We cannot succeed when half of us are held back. Malo Alpito.
Leoshina, thank you for the presentation. My question is, in empowerment of women, what are few of the barriers that we women face, let's say in the field of politics? What are few of the barriers that we face in politics, for women in politics?
Thank you, Judge, for your question. I would say one main barrier that we face in the Pacific would be our cultural barrier, where traditionally we women are behind our men. So it's now challenging these barriers and stepping forward for empowerment, to stand in political roles and areas that we maybe wouldn't normally stand in. Malo Pitu.
Thank you, Leoshina. With the empowerment of women, you read across the media, there's a lot of domestic violence. How can we, as empowered women, get out into the Pacific to eliminate or minimize or manage the issue?
Thank you, Judge, for your question. I would say, start from home. When you do that, you look at first educating your children. When you educate them from young, your sons, your daughters, they begin to grow with the values of respect for one another. And so challenges, problems like domestic violence wouldn't be such a big issue. Thank you.
If you could personally champion or develop a program for the development and empowerment of women, what would that be and what would your role be?
Excuse me, Judge, could you please repeat your question?
Okay. If you could personally champion or develop a program for the development and empowerment of women, what would that program be and what would your role be in it?
Thank you, Judge, for your question. If I would personally champion a program, it would be to gather my sisters, not only in my country, but across the Pacific, and in ways have workshops and mentorship and networking so that we can all grow together. That's true empowerment when there's unity. Thank you.
Thank you, Tru. She did great. Didn't she? All of the girls have done amazing. Please give a round of applause. Ms. Papua New Guinea. Leoshina, Kariha. And now for our next contestant, with no further ado, representing beautiful Samoa, this is Miss Samoa, Sonia Piva.
Mahalo elele, ta'alofa lava, and hello to you all. It's a beautiful feeling when you hear a little bit of your language. And I don't know about you, but wherever I go, in the world or in the Pacific, when I hear ta'alofa, I always feel a little bit closer to home. Today I've been given the opportunity to speak about culture and the importance of it to our Pacific people. And I think one of the most important aspects of our Pacific culture is our native tongue, our language. Across the Pacific, our languages may vary, but they all provide the same richness to our culture. There are approximately 6,000 distinct languages spoken in the world today, which of nearly 25%, or 1,500, are spoken in just the Pacific region islands alone. Again, out of every island in the world, 25% of those languages are spoken in our Pacific Island region. How powerful is that? Coming from a multicultural background, I've been able to experience firsthand how vital it is to our identity when it comes to our language in regards to our Pacific culture. I grew up in Australia, always returning back home, but not only until my recent years as an adult, I've come to realize how important it is to our people to know our Pacific Island language. I do admit it's been a struggle in regards to me speaking in my language, but I'm here to tell you that it's never too late to learn. You're never too old to connect with your roots or your culture, and self-belief and hard work will always earn you success, and in this case, success will earn you connectivity to your culture. To all my brothers and sisters across the Pacific who, like me, have embarked on a second language journey, I wish you good luck and share with you a tip an elder once gave me. If you can't find a translated dictionary, look for a translated Bible. As Pacific people, a Bible is never too far away. We keep our faith close to us at all times. And like our language, faith is too an integral part of our culture. We've always looked towards our faith to find strength, guidance, and connection. It's such a huge part of our culture and Pacific identity. If you tell any Pacific Islander that you're in a time of hardship, the most common response will either be, I will pray for you, or I will keep you in my prayers. When you ask any Pacific Islander for advice, they'll most likely give you a well thought out counseling and then tell you to pray on it. And if you go to any Pacific gathering, the closest time of connection is when we all link hands and pray for our food. Strong faith is part of our culture that, like our ocean, connects us. As the famous saying goes, a family that prays together will stay together. Which brings me to another fundamental aspect of our Pacific cultures, a strong sense of family and community. In some Western cultures, there's a tendency to live life as an individual. At the age of 18, you're considered an adult. You move out of home, maybe find an apartment, and start your own life. Your focus is on your goals, your career, and your life. Everything is focused around you. In Pacific culture, at the age of 18, you're still considered your mama's baby. And no matter how old you get, you never truly move out of home. I'm sure we've all heard our parents say at least once in our lives, I don't care how old you get, you're never too old for me to knock you off your high horse or something along those lines. Isn't that right, Mum? In Pacific families, our elders always make it a point to keep us humble, which is why it's so great to have our elders here to mold, guide, and strengthen us. In Pacific cultures, it's about our goals, our dreams, and our life. Any successes we have in our personal lives, we take our village with us. We celebrate our successes as a family and as a community. The same goes for our struggles. When we experience any challenges in our life, our family is always there to help us carry the burden. In the Pacific culture, everything is focused around us. Our Pacific culture is one big happy family. And as a daughter of the Pacific, I'm honored to learn words of language that connects me. I'm honored to have a faith that guides me. And I'm honored to have a Pacific family that strengthens me. Soy fua ma'ia manuia, whaftai lava, malo aldito.
Sonia, for your presentation. So, Being raised overseas and having the opportunity to live in Samoa recently, what values of the Samoan culture do you feel need to be shared more with the world, and why?
As I referred to in my speech, I truly believe the main things that connect us as a Pacific nation is our strong faith, our family orientation, and our language. So if we could just share with the Western countries these beliefs that we have, then I truly think that it can create a generation that will prosper for not only a Pacific nation, but worldwide. Thank you.
So if it's a case, Sonia, of taking your culture out to the other world, what are some of the ways you're going to do that?
Truly, I believe some of the ways that we can do that is if, as a Pacific nation, we can come together, maybe create a group, we can forge out into the schools and into the communities, and then take those overseas and share our development plans that we can create to create more connectivity with our family orientation and bring this Pacific culture that we have into the outer aspects of our world. Thank you.
Sonia, how can we preserve and portray our culture within our home islands? Because nowadays, our cultures are slowly dying in our home islands, and especially where there's a lot of migrating overseas, our culture's just disappearing slowly. How can we preserve and portray it within our home islands as well as the other countries?
I truly believe that incorporating our cultural history into our education systems will bring children to grow up with the knowledge of our traditions, and even when they venture out into the world moving overseas, they will take that knowledge and tradition with them. And I always find that in the recent years, our generations always find a tendency to come back home. Like as myself, I grew up in Australia, I've recently moved back to Samoa. So I really find that growing up with our traditional roots and our family upbringing really gives a sense of belongingness and connectivity to keep the generations that will grow up in a prosperous and truly beautiful way for our magnificent Pacific. Whawhetai lava.
Whawhetai to Miss Samoa, Sonia Piva, who is contestant number 5 in this year's Miss Pacific Islands pageant. We come to the final contestant, and this was just the luck of the draw that she would be the host and go last. So I'd like to introduce you to Miss Tonga, who is Kalolaine, Talia and Tale Luisa Lokotui Funganitao.
Tapu ki he tau I ka hai o toa, o eiki, mai kau whakamau o me anu. Te aha te mea nui o te ao, he tangata, he tangata, he tangata. This whakatauki, a Māori proverb, speaks of the importance of, well, what we should be holding as the most important thing in the world, and that is people. We are made up of communities and values. And that theme of community over individualism is something that is very prevalent in the Pacific. Hands up here who has ever been to a doctor. Okay. Hands up here if you have ever been to see someone, a professional, to talk about your feelings or some of the issues that you might currently be facing. Okay. So just from that little experiment, I'm able to garner something that is prevalent amongst our Pasifika people, and that is something called mental health. We don't like to talk about it. It is something that we consider taboo. Mental health is defined is a state of well-being in which every individual realizes his or her own potential, can cope with the normal stresses of life, can work productively and fruitfully, and is able to make a contribution to his or her community. And this is the definition given by the World Health Organization. It includes things like our emotional, psychological, and social well-being. Mental health issues tend to be what we gravitate towards. There's always a stigma that is attached to it. But mental health as a term on its own is not exactly negative or positive. It's a mixture of both. The biggest reason for this is, of course, the stigma. We don't like to talk about it. There just seems to be something almost dark and gloomy that just looms over it. Going more into stigma, it's not readily encouraged for us to talk about this. Rather, it's more easier for us to address the things that we can physically see. In New Zealand, the highest rate of suicide is amongst our youth, and that is specifically towards our Tongan youth. There has been a fostering of a culture in which we are pressured by the expectations of our elders to do well, and that's not necessarily a bad thing, whether that be in the jobs that we work in, the education we receive, or the roles we are meant to play in our families. And because we are based more on a collective rather than the individual, that pressure is coming from every single person that you know. So often we can feel suffocated, and in certain cases, this can prove fatal. This is also exemplified by the fact that there has been no specific investigation looking into the reduction of stigma in the Pacific, for our Pacific peoples. Even at an academic level, this is something that our Pasifiki scholars, the ones who are the most critical in thinking, shy away from. Kirk Johnson talks about bringing shame upon the family name in Micronesia, specifically in Guam, in which he did a case study. For most Pacific communities from an early age, children are taught the value of a family name and how certain actions can impact and even destroy a name. So this, again, emphasizes the stigma, because your family name is so important that if you're going to talk about something that is considered taboo, not only does that affect you, that affects your entire community and possibly your entire village. Haunani K. Trust is a Hawaiian who has long advocated for the indigeneity of Hawaiian peoples around their sovereignty. I bring this up because she has linked colonization to the detriment of her Indigenous peoples. The systemic oppression that Indigenous peoples face contributes to their mental health. It creates this cycle in which it hasn't only just affected your ancestors, but as time has passed on and as the world has developed, this also means that what's happened to them has slowly bled into what's happening to you, because you're being taught everything that they have received. And so this automatically limits you in so many ways, especially when society has put a playing field that you cannot reach. But in saying that there are negatives, there are solutions. The World Health Organization Pacific Islands Mental Health Network was formed in March 2005 in Apia, Samoa, and now there are currently 20 countries that are members. They all focus on different focal points, and this is so that we are all able to share the workload and carry that burden. So it's no longer just one Pasifiki country carrying everything, rather it is all of us actually linking together and being able to work through those issues. Something else that we do need to look at is the possibility of introduction of counsellors into our schools. In New Zealand, unfortunately, this is something that is beginning to decline, and we don't have as many Pasifiki counsellors as we should. Rather, the ones that are more prevalent are our Palangi, but they can't relate to us on a cultural level. And what we need is that cultural experience and that cultural understanding for us to move forward. So with that, I would like to ask to draw back to my little whakatauki I said at the beginning. He aha te mea nui o te ao, he tanaka, he tanaka, he tanaka. Dua o whakamaloa.
Thank you, Ms. Tonga. Okay. I've been living in Tonga for the last 14 months. My husband's a medical doctor. Okay. In general, medical services is a challenge in Tonga. How would you contribute to changing the system to make it more available for the Tongans?
So I actually had a brief encounter with the medical structure here. I was at Paula Hospital yesterday, so I was finally able to have a little bit of a glimpse into a lot of the issues that I've heard on Facebook about our medical infrastructure here in the Pacific. I think that because at the moment there are so many things that need improving on the physical stuff, but in saying that, we should not neglect mental health. That is equally as important as physical health, because mental health does affect physical health and vice versa. All of these things interconnect with each other and they all work off of each other. But first and foremost, we need for there to be professionals who are actually properly trained to be able to, I don't want to say deal with this because then that just makes it sound a lot more negative, and I want people to be more open about this, rather to be able to open up about everything that comes under the mental health umbrella, because mental health isn't about mental health issues. That's a misconception. There are equally as many positives as there might be negatives. So having the professionals there, but then again, we need the education backing behind it. And we don't have that at the moment. We don't have the necessary funding, we don't have the necessary educational implements to be able to do that. So even stepping back a couple of steps, we need education. And I think that's something that a lot of my sisters have echoed around here, is that education is really at the root of all of our topics. In New Zealand, it's a lot easier for a Pasifika female to go to university than it would be here. There are a lot more opportunities for scholarships. You can take out a loan if you have to. And there are more of us in the universities as well. You can see that every year there is an increase at the University of Auckland of Pasifika faces. So if we can somehow put things in place so that there is education, which then leads to the professionals being more prevalent in the systems, then we're more able to tackle it.
Manokano. So you just described a lot of things that we don't have, but one thing that we do have is people, and a lot of people. You mentioned that at the very beginning, being the root of everything. My question to you is, if you could ask all Pacific Islanders watching today one thing that they could do to positively contribute towards mental health across the Pacific, what would that be?
I would ask them to be more open to these things. I know growing up as a Tongan female, you're not always encouraged to speak what's on your mind, and you're not always encouraged to step outside and talk about something that's not necessarily the topic of discussion. At times, it has meant that I have challenged elders, and that hasn't always been received very well. But then on the flip side, I've been able to see the positive, and sometimes, very rarely, they've been able to see my point of view. So rather than it being an attack, it's actually an informed discussion. And it starts with the simple things. When you go home, instead of picking up your phone or picking up your laptop and Netflixing or Facebooking, taking your Instagram and trying to get the right lighting, you actually sit down with whoever's at home. For me, that's usually my mom. My mom she's always behind me, next to me, in front of me, jumping up behind me. But sitting down with her and having a conversation. This is something Mum and I have been able to foster at home. We sit down, we ask each other just those simple questions like, how are you? How was your day? How was work? How was uni? And rather than just saying, oh, it's fine, and then going back to my phone, actually saying, oh yeah, it was okay. I found this a bit hard, and I also found this a bit hard, and now I'm just stressing about this assignment and I don't know what to do. But I understand that we have all these family obligations, and I don't know if I can commit to this and that, and A, B, C, D, all the way through the alphabet on top of what I've got to deal with at uni. I think those little things, because you have to start at a roots level, and then you can only build your way up from there. So starting with the small conversations at home and having the people around you, because the people who are around you constantly are the ones who are going to be the ones who support you the most. Having those conversations with them, and then from there being able to move out into your wider community, hopefully into the wider nation, that's what I would ask of you.
Magalita, Kalo. You alluded to outside influences and technology and other things as affecting mental health concerns. How would you avoid having a victim mentality if you want to try and resolve some of these issues? Not blaming your environment, not blaming this, and because my family has a history of this. How do you propose avoiding that?
So, the victim mentality.
Victim mentality in order to resolve mental health issues.
When it comes to something such as that, it really is quite specific to the person, because often when it comes to mental health and specifically mental health issues, it's never just because of one reason. There's always a whole lot of other things that you need to deal with. And those for us, if we're talking about physical illnesses, those would be the symptoms. But for mental health, the symptoms are so much more rooted in our actual physical, in our mental well-being. And sometimes it's not because of the person and their life, but rather it might have been something that they have learned from others. I'm not adequately trained to speak on that, so I don't want to provide any solutions in which the trained professionals would be like, no, she just said something that's going to, make someone take 100 steps back and just further recede. But I think what I will deal with is just that it's not just, one single defining moment that then they're thinking, it's because of this and this and this, and I'm in a situation that I can't control, and it's because of all of these reasons. I think we need to be looking at it more holistically. It's the same, I think it would be quite similar to when it comes to battered women syndrome, or BWS for short. A lot of times, especially in cases that come up in our criminal law system, so I'm at law school and I love to talk about law, a lot of times BWS is not spoken about because A, it's considered taboo, but B, there's not enough adequate information to deal with it. So I think, but it's all, everything that happens to that woman, it's all accumulated over time. And so then the outcome is, this is what happens. And I think that's something that's very relative to what you're asking. It's never just one moment, rather it's been a whole bunch of life experiences, and there have been a number of encounters with various people that have driven them to that state. So when you're trying to detangle that so that they can finally move out of it and move into somewhere where they actually feel more empowered and more positive, it's going to take a lot of work, it's going to take time, but also it's going to take a lot of consideration and love and support from their own communities, and at times they will have to be understanding, but of course you will have to be firm in a couple of things, because if you're not, then it's just going to continue. So that is my answer to that.
That bringing us to the conclusion of our first judge event. Before she leaves the stage, I would just like to ask, I'm going to introduce them from the back to the front and just have them come up onto the stage in the presence of the media as well. It'd be a great photo opportunity, being the first day of judging, before I give the thank yous where they're due. So I'm going to ask, and by the way, since it's the first day, if you hear me say all the full names, those are the names that were given to me. If I miss some of your names, let me know, because in the Pacific, names are important. You were given a mile-long name for a reason, and we will acknowledge all of the names that were given to you, because this is not another pageant. This is a Pacific pageant where we celebrate the beauty of our culture, even our mile-long names. So, Miss Tonga is Miss Kalolaine, Talia, and Tale Luisa Lokotui Funganitao. We'll have them join you. Wonderful. Miss Samoa is Sonia Piva. Miss Papua New Guinea is Leoshina Mercy Kariha. Miss Cook Islands, Lydia Simonis Tariu. Miss Tuvalu, Emelipelesa San Panapa. Miss American Samoa, none other than Magalita Philomena Johnson. And the current reigning queen, Miss Pacific Islands 2018, this is Matau Aina Gwendolyn Tomalatai. Stand in front of the girls. If you like, we'll have you stand in the middle. We'll have them move over. I'd like to recognize the presence of the media, local television stations that have come from American Samoa, TV2, but especially the live stream opportunity that's given to us because of Paula Moimoi Latu, who often comes out of his own pocket to be here to do this. While the media is taking pictures, I want Robin, of course, to get good shots for the Miss Pacific Island pageant. Let me go ahead and say, first of all, that I would like to thank those of you in attendance today for accepting the request that we made of you to be silent and just to cheer within your hearts. Can we give a round of applause to the audience at large that's here at the National Reserve Bank of Tonga? I'm going to thank you first. And then, of course, on behalf of the Ministry of Tourism, if I may, as the host country, the Kingdom of Tonga, I would like to thank, while the women are standing there, never in the history of the Pacific have we had a CEO, a deputy CEO for the Retirement Fund Board, and even the director of the Visitors Bureau of American Samoa be the timekeeper and the scrutineers. If that doesn't show support for Pacific women, I don't know what else does. Please give a round of applause to our timekeeper, who would never be doing this kind of work in American Samoa, but is showing that you lead through example, of course. And we want to thank our scrutineers, who are the CEO of Waste Management and the Deputy CEO of the Retirement Fund Board. Thank you, Michael Bloomfield, and thank you also to Malakai Lobusika.
Anything else?
And the acting CEO of Tourism reminds me, unique opportunity, the judges will learn a little bit more in depth later on. Here as a host country, we have designated certain villages that are actually hosting each of the contestants. And some of their supporters, every morning they wake up, all they think of is their contestants. Some of them are here with us. So I'd like to mention that those villages, as I look out, Miss American Samoa's host, I'm going to ask them because I actually know which villages, but maybe they've begun to know them themselves.
Girls, can you take one step forward, please, just so that...
Yes, step forward because the lighting will be
there you
good.
go.
Don't go up to the lighting.
Some of the villages that are hosting, let's see. American Samoa's host is Hall 4. Hall 4. See, you ask her, she knows the name of the village. They came to the rehearsal last night to be with her. Miss Tuvalu's host is La Kepa. Miss Cook Islands host, Alaki Fonua, James Cook's original landing in 1777. Miss Papua New Guinea's host village is Loimoi. Okay, before we move on, it looks like Alaki has made their own sash for Miss Cook Islands. And to be honest with all of you, every one of your villages wanted to do this, but we asked them not to. Alaki is where Captain James Cook landed, and they kind of do whatever they want. Alaki, or Kori, or Orfa. Papua New Guinea's host, of course, as mentioned, is Loimoi. Miss Samoa's host, did we clap for Loimoi? We should do that. Miss Samoa's host is Fuamotu. And hosting Miss Tonga for 2018 is Folaha. Miss Pacific Islands is being hosted by the entire Kingdom of Tonga. Perhaps the final thanks while they're taking their last few photos, we'd like to give an opportunity for the judges to be able to go and refresh themselves. They've had their first encounter with each of our contestants, and they're going to have several more categories to judge later on. So we just want to say sincerely, Malo, Alpito, Diana, thank you so much, Anna, Delsa, Paul, and of course, Aposita. We look forward to seeing you later on. We'll allow the judges to be the first to leave, and then of course, all of us, we'd like the contestants to just take a few more photos before we leave the National Reserve Bank. We'll see you this evening at Atele Indoor Stadium for 6:30. 6:30 will be at the Atele Indoor Stadium for 3 of our judged events, the Sarong, the Talent, and the Island Creation. My name is Sia Teresia Apeakitonga. It's been a pleasure hosting you at our first judged event, and we'll see you this evening.
I was crying the whole time. You were magnificent. I can't wait for the world to just see that all of our daughters can be this, can be you. You are a shining beacon.
Jump in, you need a photo with the girls. You need a photo with the girls.